Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Until It Ran Into Me. Now and then, I think about you now and then. When I see that Chevrolet, that certain shade of blue, I hear that song, the one we sang all summer long, and even though it's been so long, it brings me back, right back to you. What does it mean when you see a ladybug? A ladybug holds many different meanings to different people. For some, a ladybug sighting foreshadows a bout of good luck. They're also linked to fertility and rebirth. Another possible ladybug meaning is that one's family will soon expand. In the same way, ladybugs are tied to love, either in a current relationship or in one about to begin. In general, ladybugs serve as colorful symbols of positive change and renewal. Well, long time no see, people. Hello. Welcome to the latest episode of Until It Ran Into Me. It has been a hot-ass minute since I posted one of these, a main episode. June was very hectic. That was the last time I posted one, I believe. I moved, and I feel very settled in now. Life is slowed down. I feel like there's not as much stress as there was before, and I just want to start getting back into recording and doing this. I apologize that it's been so long. I know I've posted like four brain dumps since then, and I was kind of concerned that would get very boring. People have told me that they enjoy those. I enjoy putting them out. I think that they're a good pivot, like I said, from like what I usually do, and they're more personal. Not that this stuff isn't personal, but it's just those are like unedited, and they're like what I'm thinking in the moment. Like I feel like, oh, I want to record this and talk about it. Hit record. That's how it goes. I do not edit them. They're raw and they're just in the moment. But I was very concerned that they would get very old, and I just really wanted to do this. So I'm happy to be back. This is not going to be about my brother like I said it would be originally. I went to go record the episode about my brother, and I absolutely could not pull it together. My thoughts were so scattered, and it was so unorganized, and I didn't know how to word things, and I just got super frustrated. And so I decided to put that episode on hold. So yeah, I'm sorry for like saying it was going to be one thing and it's not, but I can't do that right now. This is going to be the first installment of a kind of relationship, situationship, what have you, romantic alignments that I've had, some not so romantic. This is going to be the first installment of that, and these people that I am going to talk about, I will not be talking about them in any particular order. It's just who I feel about talking about at that time and all the shit that happened. We've all been through relationships with people that have changed us, that have altered our perception of love, have broken us down, built us back up. And I really want to talk about that. And I think there's so much to learn from the people that we align ourselves with. So, with that being said, and before I ramble any more than I already am, because this is not a brain dump, let's get into episode 5 of Until It Ran Into Me. In this episode, I will be referring to this person as M, the letter M. On May 5th, 2017, I turned 24 years old. I am not a big birthday person. I don't really celebrate my birthday. It still feels like, to me, it's just another day. It's a very weird relationship I have with birthdays. But at this particular time, I was living with my cousin, and he wanted to go out, and we went out to a bar. I was not going out to, like, meet anybody. That was literally, like, it wasn't even a thought in my mind. It was the furthest thing from my mind to, like, meet somebody. But that's when it happens, doesn't it? Is when you don't expect it. You're not looking for it. So, yeah. Fuck. I was approached by M, and we talked a little bit. I thought he was very cute. He was very sweet. He was really charming, and he was very easy to talk to. There was just this warmth about him, if that makes sense. You talk to him, and you feel like you've known him a long time. I like his sense of humor a lot. That's the one thing that gets me, is when someone has a really good sense of humor. I'm very attracted to that. Someone who can make me laugh. He's really quick-witted, and I felt very drawn to him. He was very handsome too. He had like these really pretty, like, I used to call them like I used to think of them as like celery green eyes. He was blonde and very tall, just very good looking, and I couldn't believe he was actually talking to me, or like I had his attention. It just blew me away. Like, why do you like me again? He kind of intimidated me. He was 35 and I was 24. At the time of us meeting, I was fresh into my first grocery job. I literally met him, I think, a week or two into it. I was bagging, and he worked at a tech startup. He was in tech, that was his thing when we met, and I was a little bit intimidated by that. He just felt like so much more adult than me, and not just because he was older than me, but because he had like such a grown-up job to me. And I felt so, I don't want to say unworthy, I just felt so, what's the word, I'm like, insecure with that. Not even insecure, I just felt like I didn't measure up. Like, what are you doing with me when you could have somebody who like has her shit together? And I was like newly on my own, like living with my cousin, yeah, but I was on my own, I was taking care of myself, you know. And he, like, I didn't see what he saw in me. I didn't understand what it was. But he saw something in me, and at the time I was like, what the fuck are you doing with somebody like me when you could have somebody like so much more together? He also had a pretty, for the most part, close family. Mine is not like that, so there were things that definitely made me feel a certain way. But it wasn't enough to like make me not want to be with him or talk to him or anything like that. And I also should note that he never made me feel less than him. Like, it was never that thing. It was all like me in my own head and my own concerns that I felt. I wouldn't even know if you call it concerns, but yeah, it was nothing he ever did. He never made me feel a certain way. It was just me making myself feel that way. I'm also the type to where when someone flirts with me or comes on to me, like, I don't know what to do with it. You know, when I was younger, I didn't get that kind of attention. I wasn't that girl. So now, like, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't know how to handle it. Like, it's just weird to me. I don't know how to act when I get that kind of attention. But it felt really good. It obviously, like, I felt very, like, seen. And feeling seen was something I struggled with. I felt very invisible. But back then it was really bad. It was a very, very hard thing to deal with. The romantic attention, the romantic feelings, all that jazz wasn't reciprocated with me, and it was very heartbreaking, and yeah, I was an extremely late bloomer. I remember that there was another guy who was also trying to talk to me that night, but he was being very aggressive and annoying and weird, like one of those, oh, the louder I am and the more obnoxious I am, the better chance I have at like bugging you into giving me attention, one of those, you know. And that was never gonna happen, so I obviously was not gonna go with that. And I remember my cousin was like side-eyeing the whole situation, so somehow, I'm not sure, I don't remember how, but I ended up getting rid of him, and Em and I continued talking, and I ended up giving Em my phone number. Me and my cousin left in the wee hours of May 6th, went to get food, and then we went home. And I think that Em and I ended up going to dinner like a couple nights later, and then we just kind of went into a habit of like seeing each other. I met his mom eventually. That was great. She was lovely, very nice to me. I met his stepdad, spent some time with them. I really liked him, and I felt comfortable, and feeling comfortable with people is very hard for me. Like, I am very shy and reserved, and it takes a while for my real personality to come out. It's just like a trust thing. It's like feeling like I'm good enough. It's insecurity. It's being afraid that I won't be accepted. And that goes back to so many different things that we do not have time to talk about in this, but yeah. He brought out a side of me that I really liked. I liked who I was when we were together. He also just brought out like a fearless side of me, like a wild side of me, and that felt really good to just have that freedom feeling of just do it because it feels good, you know what I mean? And to just not really care, just do instead of think. I think that also because I spent a pretty decent amount of time with his family too, it of course made me feel very honored that he would even bring me around his family, like that he wanted me to meet his mom and his stepdad, and, you know, I later met his dad and his stepmom. Like, you know, it feels good to feel like you're on that level with someone, and it also, like, made me more attached, and, you know, years later, maybe 3-4 years after we ended things and he was with his new girlfriend, there was a fire up by where his mom lived, and I remember seeing it on the news, and my brain automatically thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder if M's mom and his stepdad are okay. Like, I hope they're safe and nothing's wrong, and everybody's okay. And I kind of debated on it a little bit, and I did end up messaging him and asking him, and he told me that she was fine and that it was sweet of me to reach out like that. And that was the only type of contact we had, and we just left it at that at the time. But like, I still thought about them, her, him. I was just concerned. I cared. And this is going to be a major pivot from what I was just talking about, but it's a major part of the story, and I think it is it justifies my attachment to him and just all the feels that occurred, I guess you could say. Also, when he and I met, I was a virgin, which added a whole other level of intimidation. Like I said, he was 35 with plenty of experience. I was very green to that kind of thing. I had done some things, but I hadn't done the main event. So I didn't tell him at all. We would mess around. I would kind of avoid doing anything more. And one night, this was in June, early June, we went out with my cousin. We went to another bar, which was, I think we either went back to the one that we met at, or we went to another one. Went out, had a great time, ended up coming back to my place, drunk. I remember we smoked with my cousin, went upstairs, and it just happened. And I do kind of regret, honestly, too, that I was so drunk. I mean, I wasn't, like, super, super drunk, but I was drunk, and I was high, so, I mean, we both were. The fact that, like, my first time I was both of those things kind of bugs me. Because I don't really remember it. Like, I do in flashes, but, like, I know that it happened. I just don't have, like, a full recollection of it. So that's kind of iffy for me. But I know I was safe, and I was with him, and that is all that matters to me. And I didn't say anything I didn't tell him until, like, 2 or 3 weeks after the fact that, like, hey, you were my first. Yeah, so that added a whole other layer of connection for me, attachment. I think attachment is a better word than connection. It added a whole other element to the dynamic between us. And the thing is that I don't regret it being him at all. I'm actually very glad that it was with him that happened. It was very important to me to not regret it when I did it, and that's why one of the reasons why I waited for so long, honestly. And I'm grateful that it was him, because I think I made the right choice in that. It was always very important to me to do that with somebody who cared about me. Sadly, I never really expected anybody to love me when it happened, but I did want someone to at least care for me, and I wholeheartedly believe that he cared for me. So I'm very thankful that it happened with him. But I hid it. I do have regrets about hiding it like I did. I just didn't know what reaction I would get when I told him, so that's why I held off on it. I want to say about 2 or 3 weeks after we met, that's ballpark. He ended up getting a job offer in San Francisco, and he decided to take it, which of course, why wouldn't he take it? San Francisco is roughly like an hour and a half away from me, and I don't drive, so it was going to be challenging. I knew. Like, I remember him telling me and wanting to make it work. Because, I didn't think it would be a big deal. Long distance, you can make it work, I thought at the time. And I remember thinking how an hour and a half-ish away, whatever, wasn't a huge deal. Like, people have it way worse. Couples are miles and miles, some are even countries apart. Like, I didn't see the big deal. Me now, looking back, I think, we should have just ended it there, because it wasn't going to work. I applaud couples who have the trust and the patience and whatever else for long distance. Me personally, it's not my thing. I will not do it. I would try it later, after him, like much later, after him and I ended things with someone, and it just does not work. It's too much for me. Like I said, I applaud people who can. It's just not for everybody, and I'm one of them. But looking back now, we should have ended it then, because it was just knowing what was going to follow that initial conversation of him telling me, like, okay, I'm leaving, like, it should never have happened. So, anyway, back to what I was saying. He told me this, he leaves. We got into the habit of seeing each other. I think he would come down, like, every weekend for a bit. There wasn't much communication between us while he was gone. We never talked on the phone, like, ever. We never had one phone call, I don't think, during that time. But we did text sporadically. He was busy with work. I was busy with work. We both had lives at our own separate places. We were essentially just living two different lives. And when we were together, we felt like we were together. For me, like, I felt like that was my boyfriend. But when he was gone, I felt like I was all by myself. And that is another thing, looking back now, where it should have just ended. His visits became less and less. It would be every weekend, and then it would turn into every other weekend. Then it would just be when he could. And don't get me wrong, like, I was super appreciative of the fact and grateful that he even came to see me. Like, I was so thankful because it was a one-way thing, which wasn't fair to begin with, but that's just the way that it was. But I'm super grateful that he did that he came down when he could. Because the more time that went on between our visits, the lonelier I would feel. And I felt like he wasn't thinking about me, or I would feel all by myself. And I have this guy who's X amount of miles away. And all I want to do is spend time with him and grow this relationship. But there is no relationship because he's far away. How can you be together and not bond? You know, it got to a point, honestly, where he would just come down, we would go do something, and then we would sleep together, and then he'd leave. And it didn't feel like there was any connection. It felt like, I just always felt like I was waiting for him when he was gone. Like, I'm waiting for him to come back. I'm waiting for him to come see me. You know, and it sucked. And then my mind would start to wonder, like, okay, he's all the way up there, he's probably doing his thing, he's going out with his friends, he's, you know, doing God knows what while he's up there, and I'm here, and I'm waiting, and, you know, I'm starting to wonder if maybe this isn't a good idea. Like, is this even healthy? Should we just break things off? Although I really don't want to, but what else can you do? Because this isn't going to get better, it's not going to be a better situation, it is what it is. You know, and we were so early into the relationship to begin with that I didn't feel like, why would I be like, oh, don't go, or, you know, like, I didn't feel like I had the right to do that, and I didn't want to do that anyway. I didn't want to put, like, stress or pressure on him. There was a point when he came to town. I remember it was September 9th of 2017. He drove down for the day. We went to a restaurant, which was literally right next to the bar that we met at. It's right beside it. And we broke up. He ended things with me. I remember being very disappointed and very sad, obviously, because also this is the person that I lost my virginity to. So there was, like, a lot of feelings and emotions, and I was doing the thing, and it was just hard, because now I'm thinking, okay, he's a great guy. He didn't do anything wrong. Just circumstance was the downfall of our situation. And now I have to start over, and I have to do this with somebody else, and I have to be this, and talk to someone about me, and, you know, like, we were drinking, and I got very emotional, and I kind of, like, I'm not proud of the way that I was, but I was very upset, and I remember him tearing up when he was telling me that, you know, he didn't want to, it's just, he can't do it, and yada yada. And then he told me that he had gone on a few dates while he was up there, and that was even more shattering. Like, he used the word dates, but I just, in my head, was like, oh, you're, like, sleeping with someone else. I just remember being in the parking lot of my work at sunset and just crying in his car. And him calling me immature, and we were both drunk, and we were just, you know, it wasn't good. And he dropped me off at my house, and then that was it. And time did its thing. We didn't speak. I still kept him added on social media. I had him on Facebook, I had him on Instagram. We just never interacted with anything. Years would pass, and he would, like, tell me happy birthday. You know, we would have, like, these little interactions. shortly after things ended with him, I went a little crazy and I kind of did the whole hookup thing. I think now I think I know for the most part that I was 100% trying to fuck the pain away, I guess you could say. That's the best way I know how to put it. Like, I just wanted to feel something, and I was sad over the situation, and I was lonely, and I just wanted the person that I had shared things with, that I had never shared with anybody before, who it didn't work out how I wanted it to work out. It didn't come to fruition, so I just kind of messed around with people, and, that was it. I did it a lot, and then I would feel so empty afterward, and I just remember wanting him and wanting him back. But I knew that wasn't really going to happen, so I just did my thing. Just feeling all of these feelings as an adult that a lot of people feel when they're a teenager. The whole, person you lose your virginity to, and having that connection to them and those feelings. Like, I had to deal with that older, and it's kind of crazy going through that in your early 20s, as opposed to, younger. You know what I mean? It was a very weird time, and I was feeling all the things I'd never felt before, and I didn't know how to handle it, because it was very overwhelming to me. And yeah, that was crazy. It was the most intense shit ever. I want to say, we broke up in September. I want to say during the holidays. The new girlfriend was posted, which was kind of a punch to the stomach. Because it's always the ones who don't want a relationship with you that will get into one with someone else, and very shortly after they end things with you. Now, when these were posted, I was still feeling the feelings, but I also remember feeling like he had finally found the person that he was supposed to be with. Like, they matched each other. And I acknowledge that feeling. Like, it still hurt, but it made me feel like, okay, he found somebody who's more on his level, who, they just seem very much a match. I went through the whole phase after the breakup of, I'm not good enough for him, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm too young, I'm not experienced enough, I'm this, I'm X, I'm Y, I'm Z. And I beat myself up about that, and I still kind of was when I saw the pictures, but I ended up seeing pictures of the holidays of him and her with his family. And mind you, this was 2 months after the breakup, so I'm pretty sure that they were speaking when he told me that he was going on dates. So I just assumed that she was the people that he was supposedly seeing up there. And they looked really good together. They seemed like they were a good match, so I acknowledged that, and I was like, okay, that makes more sense. It still hurt. I still felt like shit. I was sad. But I did have that awareness of, okay, he's with somebody who has more of a lifestyle like he does. They live in the same place. I was happy for him, but I just, hated her, and I wanted to be her at the same time, while also appreciating and being happy that he was in something that made him happy, and with someone who made him happy. Because at the end of the day, through all of it, I just wanted him to be happy, and I still do. I remember, just seeing her, and she's beautiful, and she's just really intelligent, because I did look her up, because we all look up the girl, let's just be honest here, we all looked them up, because I was so, morbidly curious, and I kind of, I think we torture ourselves with it too, because we compare initially, but, I just remember, learning more about her as much as I could, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So it made me feel like shit, but I also was aware that it made more sense for him, and years later, when they were still together, he would message me happy birthday randomly and stuff, and he would, or randomly say hi sometimes. He would tell me that, if you and him are free, then, and her and I are in town, that we should get together and, kind of have a double date. And that was never going to happen. I absolutely avoided that. I made up every excuse in the book not to do that, because one, I was with somebody who I loathed, and we were just kind of stuck together. We were living together. He was living in the house that I rented a room from, and it would have been such a performative interaction with them, and I was not going to do that. I was not going to lie. He's an alcoholic, he's an asshole, he makes me feel horrible about myself. We do not get along, just constantly arguing. There was constantly conflict. It was just life-draining. There's nothing, there's no partnership there. And it would have been a facade. I hated him, and I did not want to sit across from these two people who, one, I know what she has, and what I have is just bullshit. I couldn't fathom sitting across from the two of them and having to put on a front like I'm in this happy union, because it wasn't a union, it was bullshit. And knowing what they have and what they share, and I just couldn't deal with that. So I made up every excuse in the book not to do the double date thing. Like, I made up every excuse, and I did it multiple times with him because that was not going to happen at all. Because although there were no feelings there, I think maybe there might have been a little bit just because of, like, our past and what he was to me. But I didn't want to torture myself like that. And especially with the person that really tried to sabotage me and M's relationship when we were friends and I was seeing him. You know, that felt really weird and morbid. And honestly, the person I was with couldn't hold a candle to M, and that's that. Pretty much a month to the day after him and I ended things, I ended up getting involved with who would be my boyfriend for 4 years. Truly the most toxic, unhealthy relationship I've have ever been in. It was someone who I considered a friend, who really liked me like that, but I didn't like him like that. The whole time that me and M were together, he would try to tell me that it wasn't worth it, that long distance wasn't going to work. He definitely, looking back now, and I realized this years ago, that he really tried to sabotage me and M because he wanted to be with me. And I did not want to be with him. He was just my friend. I only saw him as a friend. There was no attraction there like that. There was nothing there romantic for me. But he was hell-bent on being with me. And I feel like after me and M broke things off, he kind of played the nice guy and the cry on my shoulder type of thing. And I think he absolutely had a hidden agenda. And I ended up being with him because I think it was like a lonely thing. I think I was still like having fun on like the outside, but it wasn't really like fulfilling me at all. And here's this person who I've known for like a year, who maybe 6 months to a year, maybe, that, you know, I'm friends with and we know each other personally. Maybe I'm missing out on this great guy. Newsflash, plot twist, I was not missing out on anything. He was a fucking asshole who was entitled and crazy and made me feel like shit about myself, who couldn't handle the fact that I didn't want to be with him, who couldn't handle the word no. That situation will also get an episode because that is one of the most darkest times of my life. I went through a horrible time with him. He, compared to M, was like night and day. And I truly got just the shit end of everything when I got with him. You know, and also I want to add that during the time that, this is right after, we're going to call him L, who came after M. Me and L got together. I saw him post his new girlfriend. This was only a month or two after we had broken up. And, you know, he had told me when we had broke things off at dinner that he had been on a couple of dates. And I remember seeing photos on Facebook of him and this woman and his family together, and it just broke me even more than I already was. Because in a lot of ways, she had gotten what I had always wanted with him. And that never feels good. If you've ever been in that situation, you know what I'm talking about. So I think that L was sort of definitely a rebound. I felt this false sense of connection with him, and it was truly just fucking horrible. And then fast forward X amount of years later, I'm at work, and I get a text when I go to check my phone in my locker at work. And it's from him. I never deleted his contact. And he's like, "Oh, is this Brittany? This is M." And I went, When that message was sent to me, I was single. The previous year, I had been involved with someone who had broken me down in every single way. Someone I wasn't even with, really. We were just talking, but very real feelings were involved, and time went by, and this person just became the absolute worst. He will get his own episode eventually. That is a very hard thing to talk about, but that needs to be talked about probably more than anyone, because that was the most... It changed the way I look at myself. I still struggle this day. It was such an eye-opening experience.
And like I said, it broke me down. And I did not, after that ended, I did not want to be with anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to be alone. A lot of it was because I didn't want to go through that again with someone else, and also because I didn't feel secure enough to. I felt very insecure with myself. Thirdly, because I couldn't. Like, I did not have it in me. And I got that message from him, and something kind of sparked again. So I get this text message, and he and I catch up. We do, like, the how's life been, yada yada. He sends me pictures of him, where he lives now. It was a very nice catch-up moment. It happened, it was, like, over the course of a couple days. We just texted back and forth, life updates, how are you, you look great, yada yada. And then he tells me that he wants to come down and see me. He no longer lives in San Francisco. He's no longer in tech. He's living hours away from me now. I think he was like 3 hours away. I want to come down, we'll have dinner, hang out, talk. Great. So I agreed. I think I agreed because there was so much... Number one, so much time had passed, and, like, I'm not the same person as I was when I was 24. You know, I'm now in my 30s. I've been through a lot with people. Life has changed as it does. It goes on and things change, and I think there was a curiosity of just who we are now that I wanted to see. Like, what would it feel like? What was it going to feel like to sit across from this person that I had given myself to and had all these great times with, but it also had some really sad times with. But there was nothing bad between us. Like, there was no ill will. I wasn't mad or upset. I hadn't really been in the first place. I mean, I was disappointed that it ended, like any relationship that you are emotionally invested in, that you want to be in, but, like, I didn't, there was nothing negative. I wanted to know what it was like to sit across from him and who he was now and know about him and learn more about him, and what he'd been through. I knew he had been through some really bad things, really hard, tough things. That's totally an understatement. And I wanted to just see how he was. I was worried about him. I was, hoping he was okay. I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know about him and see how things were.
And I wanted to know who we were and how we would be with each other. And, would it feel weird? Would it feel awkward? Would it feel comfortable? Would it feel easy? And I went into it with no intention of, this is going to be something or reignite something or whatever. I just wanted to talk to him, and I just wanted to see what it was like, and I wanted to genuinely know how he was doing. Because he did go through something that was very, very horrible, and, like, one of the most horrible things someone can go through, horrible. I just wanted to know that he was alright, or he was on his way to alright. That's all that I cared about.
And so, he came down, picked me up at my house. He looked exactly the same, which was crazy. I hadn't seen him since 2017. And then he picked me up, gave me a hug. You look great, how are you? We ended up going to, where did we go? We went to the Crow's Nest, which is like a oceanside restaurant. We went to the bar, sat down, and we drank and we talked, and
it was the most serene I've been in a really long time. Like, just the conversation was great, the mood was great, it was just so beautiful and calm and nice. And yeah, like, you're a little drunk, but it's just adding to the flow of the conversation. The conversation is flowing very well. Anyway, all on its own. And I find myself sometimes thinking back to that time, that moment, and I wish, in a way, I could go back and relive it, because we were just talking, and it felt so good. And I just kind of miss that. I miss how we were just existing together and, like, catching up, and it felt nice to catch up. When you haven't seen somebody for a long time, and you just are soaking up the conversation in the moment and just enjoying each other's company. Like, that was great. That was lovely. How much we've grown as people, and, we both experienced so much, and we went through some really, really hard, bad times, and we went through some good times. It just felt really good, and I had a great time, and he said he had a great time, and we took a walk on the beach afterward, and he kissed me, and And it felt like it ignited something. It felt like something had never left, you know? And I just felt this feeling like, just go, just jump in, just dive into this. Let it, whatever was gonna happen, happen. I just really wanted to see where it would take me if I did that, so I did. And I was a little scared, but overall, I just really wanted to explore this. I'm going to be fully transparent and admit to the fact that we did, in fact, end up sleeping together that day. In the moment, it felt very right, just with the way the mood was, with the way we were with each other. Afterward, I did kind of think maybe that wasn't the best thing to do, because it did, like, I don't know, that the chemistry was there, and, like, something feelings-wise bubbled back up to the surface, and I was like, oh shit, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. But it happened. He drops me off at home, we kiss goodbye, hug, yada yada, great to see you. He texts me the next day while I'm at work again, and says, oh, I had such a great time with you, I would love to do that again, hang out. I'm gonna come down next weekend. And I didn't expect for us to see each other so quickly after again. I thought that, initially, before we even saw each other the first time, I thought, okay, he's probably gonna come down, we're gonna hang out, maybe get a drink, have dinner, and then he's just gonna go away, and I probably won't see or hear from him again for 6 more months. I was surprised that he wanted to get together again so quickly. I remember one time joking with him, like, on the second go around, he would say how inconsistent he was because he wasn't coming down really and like all that stuff. And I said, well, at least you're consistently inconsistent. There were many other factors too, like his work was very, like, the job that he had was very, like, he didn't have a set schedule, he didn't have set times that he worked, so he kind of just had to go by the free time that he had, and if it happened to correlate with me, then we would do something. But he was also very distant, and he would be, he kind of fell off the map, so it was also his fault as well. And he never changed that behavior, so he was also part of the problem. It wasn't just his schedule. So the weekend after he comes down, I don't remember what we did, but we did end up hooking up again, and when he left that next time, I remember thinking, okay, you have to figure out what this is and what's gonna become of this. Because, okay, are we just two people who are messing around? Are we going to be something eventually? Are we going to work? Is this going to turn into anything? And at that stage of my life, after what I had gone through with the person before him, I was not okay with just doing that and nothing becoming of it. I was not going to just give myself away and be, have that emotional connection, that physical connection with someone, and have it just be nothing. I was so over just doing the hooking up thing. I was so done with it. So he came to town the third time, and I don't know how he did this, but I think he just read my mind, and he straight up said, like, you're probably wondering what's gonna happen between us, or something like that. And I kind of laughed, and I looked at him and said, yeah, I just want to know, like, what this is, what we're doing, what are we doing? And then I was glad that he asked me first, because I didn't know how I was going to ask him. And I'll never forget, we were sitting, we were up at his dad's house, and we were just talking, and he said basically that he didn't want a relationship, that he liked me, and he liked how we were, and he just didn't want anything serious right now. And the thing about that is crazy, because that literally flashed back to a moment I had with him years before, where right before we ended things, we had been up at his mom's house. We had stayed the night with his mom and his stepdad. And I remember I was sitting on the bed, and he was standing up. I could see it now in my head, and he said something along the lines of, I can't imagine being with one person for the rest of my life. I can't imagine ever loving someone. And this was right before we ended things the first time. And I remember just, like, feeling my heart sink and thinking, what the fuck am I doing here then? Like, why are we doing this? Because that had never been said to me before by him, or implied. And because of his actions alone, and because of the things we were doing, and the time we were spending, and how I was so involved with his family and stuff. Like, I thought that, what?
shortly after we would end things, obviously, but that moment years later was such a parallel. And for some reason, I just decided that, okay, we're just going to do this. And even though I'm breaking a promise that I made to myself and breaking a boundary that I made for myself, which you should never do, I totally self-abandoned in that moment. We continued on. We slipped into a routine of hanging out, of sleeping together, of just doing this thing over and over again. And, we made some good memories. We did some really fun things. I enjoyed spending time with him. I felt closer to him then than I had felt to him before. Maybe it came with time. Maybe it came with us being different. Maybe it came with just the closeness I felt now that I didn't feel before. I felt like Brittany and Em now were so different than Brittany and Em then. Those were just ghosts. And now we were different, and we'd been through shit, and we just clicked more. And we genuinely just had fun with each other, and it was so easy. And it was not so much an escape, he just added color to my life that wasn't there before, just if that makes sense. We had some good times. One memory that I find myself going back to a lot, and just looking back on fondly, we ended up going to this beach one day. I remember in the morning we had spent the night up at his dad's, woke up, showered, had coffee with his dad's wife, who I really adored, and I think deleting her off of Facebook was harder than deleting him when things fell out between us, because she was great. But anyway, we had coffee with them in the morning, and then we decided that we were going to go have breakfast. We went to this place in downtown Santa Cruz. I can't remember the name of it, but it was really good. And then we decided we were going to go to the beach. I remember sitting at the table, and him and I were talking about concerts that we were going to go to. Maybe he wanted to take me to there, he wanted to take me here. That I thought was something. Now I know it was absolutely nothing. But we talked about that, and then we decided we were going to go to the beach. So we went to Ross. I picked out a bathing suit. He got some random stuff, and we got alcohol. I think we got a bottle of something. I think it was rum. I think it was Captain Morgan. We went. It was great. It was nice. It was like this little, secluded little beach. And we just sat on the beach, drank, and talked, and laughed, and that is such a memory that I'll probably, hold dear forever. Because it was such a good time, and it was great. There was a point when we were laying on the beach in the sun, and a ladybug landed on me, and another one landed on him, and they would not get off of us. They just stayed there. And I felt like that held some significance, and I remember looking at him and thinking, I really need to Google what ladybugs mean. And I ended up doing it when I got home. But now, whenever I see ladybugs, I always think about that day on the beach, and I think about him every single time. And what's crazy is that when I started recording this episode, I went into a department store one day, and I look up when I walk in the door, and there's this ladybug figurine, on the display table in one of the shops, and I went, huh. It just kind of, knocked the wind out of me a little bit. It always surprises me, because that happens quite often, and the whole shade of blue thing, the car that he was driving when we met, and up until when we met again, he ended up selling it, but the car that he had was a certain shade of blue. And every time I see that shade of blue, I think of him. So that's where the title comes from. So, fun fact. We left the beach. We drove back to... We went to go get food. I don't remember from where. And we made the drive back to his dad's house. And I remember this very, distinct memory of... when you hear a song and you have a memory attached to that song, and it sticks with you forever. Well, I'm one of those people.
And I remember Dangerous by Morgan Wallen was playing on the radio, and to this day I hear that song and I get, like, I have a very love-hate relationship with that song because it's attached to that memory. Like, I can see it in my head as I'm talking about it right now. Because it was just attached to a really good day, a really good time, to him, which was a positive thing at the time. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm gonna think of you every time I hear this song, and from now on, and here we are today. But yeah, there were good memories attached to that second go around. Really good memories it's a very bittersweet feeling, but the sweet is more than the bitter, if that makes sense.
And then at one point, the unraveling started again, where the communication was scarce. And I called him out on it. And he basically told me the same thing. You should never, if you're listening to this, never let someone tell you that they don't want you more than once. I know that now, and it took me a long time to learn that, but don't let someone tell you they don't want you more than once. That goes for men, women, whoever. Like, don't do that to yourself. It's literal torture, and just don't do it. Take my advice, don't do it. Break it off, walk away, run away, block them, never speak to them ever again. Anyway.
So, the last time that we saw each other was when he came down to see me. He came to town. After he had been away, he had went to the Burning Man Festival in Nevada. And he was gone for like 3 days. We didn't speak, obviously. And during that time, I had felt very alone, and I missed him deeply, and I felt like I was such an afterthought because he was at this festival, he was doing God knows what, and him going to that really freaked me out because, like, I've never been to one of those things, but I've heard about the shit that goes down there. And I knew that knowing him, he was doing all the things. And rightfully so, may I just say. Like, he was a single man. He could do whatever he wanted. I was just there. We were just, like, involved with each other. We weren't, like, exclusive. He can do with whoever, whatever he wants. So I just want to make that clear. I was not like, oh, like, you can't go. Like, no, you can do whatever you want. I kind of wish you wouldn't. It doesn't make me feel great that you do. But, like, what can I say? I'm not going to, like, say no. You know what I mean? So, when he told me that he wanted to come down and see me when he came back, that made me feel really good, even though I remember us texting while he was there. He had no reception, so he had to wait till he had reception to, like, text me. Because for those of you who don't know, Burning Man is a festival, like, held in the middle of the desert, so, yeah, there was no communication, really. And I think one night I was just in my feelings, and I wrote this message, and it was something along the lines of, you know, I feel like you're not thinking about me, or something like that. And I remember his response was very dry and very, like, almost, like, smart ass. And it really ticked me off that he was acting like that. And I'm like, oh, he's probably, like, messing around with people, and he's, like, I'm the last thing he's thinking about. But when he came back, he told me he wanted to come see me because he missed me. So we end up taking off. We go to his dad's house for a minute, and then we ended up getting a hotel room for the night. Before we go to the room, we stopped at the liquor store down the street from my house. So we pull up in the parking lot, we park, and as we're getting out of the car, he says that there's something that I want to talk to you about tonight. There's something that I want to run by you because of something that you told me the other night when we were together. And the moment he said that, when he finished that sentence, I knew exactly what he was going to ask me and what he was talking about. I couldn't remember exactly how many nights previous, but we had been at his dad's house when he was staying there, and on one of his visits. We were spending the night there. We were sitting on the blow-up mattress downstairs, we were drinking, and we were talking, and I told him, basically, like, I just told him, like, my sexuality. I told him that I'm bi. We didn't really touch that much on it, but looking back now, and remembering, like, the look on his face when I told him, I could definitely tell the gears were turning, and that something was being conjured in his mind. So yeah, it wasn't shocking that he was asking me that, and just knowing him, it wasn't shocking to me either. But now that I look back, it was definitely, like, he was thinking about it. But
this conversation, I knew he was going to ask me about, like, bringing someone in or doing that kind of thing. So, we get to the room. I'm sitting on the bed, and I have a beer in my hand, and I just want to fucking chug it. I just want to be drunk. But I'm sitting there, and I look up to him when we've settled in, and I say, so what did you want to talk to me about? I really just wanted to get the conversation over with because I knew what was coming. And a part of me felt like I was obligated to say yes, and wanted to say yes because I didn't want to lose him. Because I knew how he was. You know, that's just how he is. Which is fine, like totally fine. But anyway, I asked him, what did you want to ask me? He proceeds to tell me that there is a girl that he met at Burning Man. It wasn't this one that he had went to, but one previous, that he wanted us all to be involved at some point. He said, oh, well, like, you know, I would want us to be together first and be a couple, and then eventually I want to bring this girl in. He told me a little bit about her. And the whole time he's saying this, I just, like, my heart sank. It was just in my fucking stomach. And I just remember, like, thinking, why can't it just be me? Like, why can't it just be you and I? Why does it have to be somebody else? Why? And I just want to say that I think at a certain time in my life, a certain version of me would have been totally okay with that. I think it would have been appealing. I think it would have been fun. I think it would have been hot. I think it would have been a good time. But I think that over time, if I were to have just abandoned myself completely and been like, yeah, let's do it, like, it would have actually killed me inside. As a really close friend of mine said, I would have slowly wilted away. I strictly wanted monogamy at that time in my life. You know, I consider myself very open-minded. I think that love, sex, relationships are so much more than what we've quote-unquote been taught. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. It's a lot more layered than that. Everybody's different. Just because one thing works like this doesn't mean it won't work another way. Like, I'm totally open to, like, exploring and experimenting and just not having the usual, quote-unquote usual type of relationship with someone. But for me at that time, and all that I had gone through with previous people before him, I just wanted it to be me and one other person, and that's it. That's all that I wanted. It was devastating, and it was like a knife to the fucking heart, because you know that I want to be with you, that I like you, that there's feelings here again, but you are automatically talking about bringing someone else into a relationship that we don't even have. You know, you don't want to be exclusive with me anyway. You, like, what? Immediately following this conversation, we had sex, and I was so mad at how good it was. And how I felt so emotionally connected with him. Like, we were very, like, how do I explain this? Like, we were, like, in sync. Like, physically and emotionally in sync. You know what I mean? If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Because while it was happening in my head, I was just thinking, like, this is so good like this. Why can't we just be together? Why can't it just be us? Like, I like you, you like me, we vibe really well. There's something here, you can feel it. Like, why? And I think after it was over, he brought her up again, and I don't remember anything else after that, but I definitely 100% I was so checked out and so hurt after that I just felt like I was floating outside of my body and watching these conversations happen. You know, like, it was just so difficult, and I felt so small and so invisible, and, like, just, it hurt. And also, on the other hand, we had just had sex, and it was very intimate and, like, very intense. I felt like the connection, and that was also, like, kind of a mindfuck, you know, at the same time. Like, how can it feel so good to be with you and give myself to you, and you give yourself to me, but we can't get there emotionally? You know what I mean? Like, it was just fucking insane. That conversation was the nail in the coffin. Absolutely. That proposition from him was a major slap in the face, and I would later tell him that. But it was a slap at the face to me, and I felt it so hard. Like, I knew it was never going to be what I wanted it to be. You know, he didn't want the same thing with me. I felt like, again in my life, that someone else had overshadowed me, and I wasn't good enough. That
someone else needed to fulfill something I couldn't, and that was just, it killed me. But it was like a knife through the heart, honestly. I just knew that it was over and it was going to be done. So after that, he leaves, he goes home, and I remember just kind of like keeping my distance myself. I didn't really text him, I didn't really talk to him. We drifted. We just drifted apart. There was just silence. And the silence was so loud. And although I knew after I saw him that it felt like the last time, it still hurt. But yeah, we didn't speak. Until we didn't, and he texted me.
This was around, I believe it was around Thanksgiving, right before Halloween, something like that. I remember there's a holiday coming up, and I'm at work. All these things happen when I'm at work. I get a text from him saying that he wants to come to town today, drive down, and talk to me. And at this point, I was already hurting. I was already upset. I was already feeling alone. I felt like he was not ignoring me, but just being very distant with no explanation, just, And I told him no. And the reason I told him no, and I didn't say this to him, but I told him no because I didn't want a repeat of what happened the first go around. I didn't want him to sit me down at a table, look at me, and say, sorry, but you're not it. I couldn't handle that. So I told him, don't bother, just go. That's what I said, just go, Em, just go. And he apologized. He said we could still be friends, and I denied that immediately at the time because I did not want to be his friend. I have feelings about that now, but I feel like I would have just held on to it, hoping he would change his mind, and I think that me letting it go was for the best. And I don't remember my exact, what I said to him, the reaction I had. I know I said something, but then I just stopped texting him. Then later that night, I was in bed, and I wrote him a novel, and I told him to fuck off about 1,000,000 times, and, that I'm more than just a pastime, that I said a whole bunch of things that I can't even really remember right now, but it was a novel of a text message. And I sent it and I blocked him. And it just felt like the same thing. It's crazy how it was literally the same thing so many years later. And I think now, and I'm like, it was just a lesson that you repeated because you didn't learn the lesson. Because everything checks out. Everything mirrors itself from years before. And I'd be lying if I said that wasn't absolutely devastating. I have such a hard time letting things go, and sometimes when things come back around, it's hard for me to not forget how I felt before, and I kind of let that override my system into, this might be like a not so great thing to do, but I felt this way so and so long ago, and maybe it can be here again, and that's a huge thing with me that I'm actually really aware of now, thank goodness. I know that things ending with him definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it made me stronger, and it made me more cautious in a good way. It made me bring back boundaries. It made me realize that I'm not going to settle for the same old shit again, and I'm not going to be treated a certain way. It was a blessing in disguise, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that it happened again, because it really was a lesson that needed to be repeated, so I can really learn from it this time, 100%. And for that, I'm grateful. I have a lot of gratitude for that. After that last text message, I did block him on everything. I had a couple slip-ups, and I would unblock him after that a few times, but I would always reblock him again, because I'm like, you can't go back, you can't do that again. So yeah, there's been no contact. He hasn't reached out to me, I haven't reached out to him. And I think it's best if we just never speak ever again, if we never have any interaction at all, because that chapter has closed. Do I hope that he's happy? Yes. Do I hope he gets everything he's ever wanted? Yes. Do I hope that he finds everything that he's looking for, everything that he wanted? 100%. I want happiness, peace of mind, all that for him. But honestly, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to see it. And at the end of the day, that situation taught me so much about myself. There was a lot of pattern recognition with that experience. I really had to look at myself and the shit that I've allowed people to do to me. The cycles that I've repeated, the patterns I repeated. I realized that I romanticized just the fucking most mundane shit with people.
I romanticize people that shouldn't be romanticized at all, but I find something to hold on to. My tendency to self-abandon, my tendency to put someone and what they want above what I want or what I feel. Just the people pleaser that I am, and wanting to make someone happy and all of those type of things. Even if it means sacrificing myself. It's being chosen with me is a big thing. I want to be the girl. I wanted to be the girl, and I wasn't the girl. And you know what? That's fucking fine. Because I'm the girl to someone now. And you don't realize it at the time, but when things like that end, it's just because something so much better is waiting for you. Waiting to be yours. And that was what I learned. That everything happens for a reason. I've always believed that. I've always believed that everything good and bad happens for a reason. Every decision we make, I believe, leads us to where we're meant to be. Even the smallest thing, like you chose to go right or left in the morning. Like I believe in fate, and I believe that, everything is a stepping stone to get to that one thing, that one person, that whatever that's meant for you. And not only does that include wins, but that also includes failures and setbacks. So I guess I should thank him for opening my eyes to myself, and for me calling out myself, because I really needed that. I needed to be checked like that. And I needed to take accountability for the shit I allow, because I don't allow shit now. Period. Fuck that. So yeah, it was a blessing in disguise. It really sucked to go through that. That's an understatement. But now that I'm on the other side of that, I see it for what it was. And I'm grateful, because that set me free. As crazy as it sounds, there's still like a soft spot for him that I don't think will ever go away. And maybe it's the whole first time thing. Maybe it's because I really felt like I could love him. I feel like a part of me did. It's so weird and complicated, and sometimes it makes me feel silly, but I think there'll always be that soft spot there. No matter how much I try to deny it, or wish it away, or tell myself I'm so angry. I don't think that there was anything super, super wrong that happened between us. Yeah, he did kind of a shitty thing. But then now I feel like I'm making excuses for him. I don't know. It's such a weird feeling mixture that I have about the situation. But I definitely feel like it needed to end, and it needed to help me to see the light with myself. And what's so crazy, and it's kind of like a full circle moment in a way, is that now that I've moved, I live literally 3 minutes from the bar that we met and the place that we broke up at. Ain't that some shit? And what's even crazier is that didn't really register to me or hit me like a week or two after I moved here, that, oh shit, it's right down the street. And you're asking, Brittany, have you been back to that bar or that restaurant since that happened? Absolutely not. And I don't think I ever will go into either one ever again. So I guess the question is, where do I stand with everything now? Where do I stand with him? What are my feelings toward the situation? What are my feelings toward him? What is the aftermath of all of that now that a significant amount of time has passed? And I think the best way to explain it is a quote from one of my favorite poets, Olivia Gatwood, who ended up posting a Instagram post about her ex-partner who had passed away. In this caption, she talks about their breakup, when they had broken up, and she said something that really made me think of M. She says, I think healing from heartbreak means you no longer dread running into someone, and instead feel comfort in knowing that they're somewhere, being a person. And that is it for episode 5 of Until It Ran Into Me. Recording this episode has brought up a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, a lot of memories. It's crazy because I'm recording this right now, this part of this, on July 28th. And after I got off work today, I went shopping and I walked into a department store, and when I walked in, I looked up, and on the display table there was like this little
Ladybug figurine, and it made me go, huh. And I'm just naturally one of those sign people anyway. Like, everything's a sign, everything has a meaning. Like, I'm seeing this for a reason. I'm an angel number person. I'm like all those things. So seeing that today, it like kind of solidified that maybe doing this episode was a good idea. Maybe it's like a lot of healing in it. You know, maybe it's like a part of my healing journey to do this, to talk about this, to talk about him, because it was very profound. It affected me deeply. And clearly I think it still like hits a nerve. I'm learning as I'm recording this. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has tuned in to this episode, who continues to interact with any of my content, any of my socials. I really appreciate you all. Thank you for giving me the space to speak my truth, to be vulnerable, for being so accepting of it, making me feel comfortable. I appreciate you all who take the time to listen. If you would like to keep up with the podcast, please stay till the very end, where you can hear the directory for all of my socials, ways to keep up with any updates. I also just want to add that the sound in this is not the best. I recorded some of it on my phone, and I feel like the phone is better, but like I can't exactly get like a very like super quiet place, which is like, it is what it is. But it's definitely better than the last place. I just want to apologize for like certain sounds. Like, I have the fan on. I have to have the fan on. I'm probably going to turn it off from now on. But just to say sorry for the like different noises. I try to edit as much as I can out without messing up my dialogue. So apologies for that. I do want to get a new mic eventually. That's probably going to happen within the next couple months. So just bear with me. But anyway, thank you for tuning into another episode of Until It Ran Into Me, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Until It Ran Into Me. Listen to new episodes and other news. You can visit my website at buzzsprout.untilitranintome.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Until It Ran Into Me Podcast. And in my bio on Instagram, you can find my link tree that leads to all of my other social media platforms that I'm on. So please give those a follow. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time.